So what are the best cards in pools 4 and 5? Well, today I'll be giving you my early impressions, ranking every single one of them in a tier list from best to worst. So Marvel Snap is in the process of setting up a creators program to support creators like myself. And guys, I was freaking lucky enough to be chosen to test out a lot of these cards early. And I was able to get a good feel on if they work or not. So let's truly find out. Should you be buying these cards in pool 4 and 5 and using your collector tokens on them? Remember, this is an early impressions list, so a lot could be subject to change. But I wanted to get some form of rankings out there to you guys. A lot of people are struggling. Should I pin the card? Should I skip it? Should I buy pool 3? And I thought this would be a good place to start. Let's go to the rankings. Taking a look at the rankings, you guys see we have S tier all the way down to F tier, otherwise known as Thor: The Dark World. So I'll be focusing on their overall versatility in the current cards of Marvel Snap, as well as how they fit into all the decks within the game. We start out with Absorbing Man, who almost makes the S tier. I think I'm going to settle with the top of A, as he is extremely impactful. Absorbing Man isn't quite Mystique. He's a ton of fun to play, and he gives a huge boost to on-reveal, discard, destroy, even some control options. At the moment, I think there's some interactions that aren't working, but I can see his value rising over time. Really, it boils down to his total cost being a 4-cost card compared to, again, Mystique at a 3-cost. But he definitely just shoots up Destroy, copying Taskmaster and Venom, and there's a bunch of other combinations that you can make, and we're just scratching the surface here. Mr. Phil Coulson, Agent Coulson, will be in the B tier. He's truly just a fun card to have in any deck. With the strength of Devil Dino and the ability to give you the perfect curve, he's much more useful than people think. Again, I think he's another card that I wouldn't just unlock with tokens, but if you pull him, he's great to fit into a lot of different decks for that curve. And if you like Devil Dinosaur Man, Phil's the guy to plug in. Next up is Atumma. We're going to place him in the C tier. Now, he is good with support, and he does have some solid value. He's got great location presence. If you haven't placed any other cards, your opponent might want to play some things to contend with him. And yes, he does pair up with the Goblins or Professor X or Zero. So placing them in those kind of decks like Disrupt or a Zero-style deck can work to your advantage. But for now, he's a little bit meh. Like, I definitely wouldn't unlock him with tokens rather than just getting him through the collection track. Next up is Bast, and I think we are just scratching the surface as far as her total potential goes. Bast just has so much potential. Definitely helping out Cerebro decks or Zoo decks across the board. I think right now, her biggest problem is that she's definitely not worth a Series 5 or Pool 5 cost of the tokens, and I can see her moving down. They said they would be adjusting some of these cards from series to series, and Bast is probably one of those cards I would wait or unlock her again through the collection track. I can see her being more towards the top end of this list, but also somewhat average depending on the decks that you play. Now we've got the man of the hour. We have Galactus. And Galactus is tough, guys. He's a tough one, all right? He is killer. S tier animation. We can start there. The animation, top of the game. So much fun. You really feel the power when you play him. The only issue with him is I'm going to place him in the highest of B tier for now. Really, guys, there's so much that can get in the way of just planning around him. You can't exactly make a deck purely for him, as there's locations like Central Park, you've got goblins, you've got debris, needing the right combos. You can't solely just rely on being able to play him all the time. And then also, you've got to usually ramp him in. Playing him on turn 6 is pretty lackluster. Now, again, I repeat it all the time. Love the combo of Iron Fist, Spider-Man, followed by Galactus. But again, you need to get the right draw. Your opponent, you got to worry about what they have in that lane. He's definitely a fun card. There's no question about that. But right now, there's so much more to focus on than unlocking Galactus, in my opinion. He might rise if we find a continuous meta deck. Like, as far as the meta deck report that I do, I don't see him ever cracking into that. But he's fun, and that's what Marvel Snap is all about. He's definitely one I'm going to unlock when I see him in the store. And if you got him already, don't feel bad. There's ways to make him work, but I don't see him being the top end of the meta. We'll be moving on to Helicarrier that I'll be putting in the C tier. Now, this card is interesting. It can be a bit penalizing for Dracula decks. In Hela decks, it's going to be pretty dang good. Hela's going to benefit from this majorly. You can discard it, get plenty of more options, and then Hela can play the huge power cost that it has. Now, Luke Cage will be going in the B tier. He's the definition of a card that's great with other support around him. Only costing 2 energy is fabulous, and bringing up Hazmat to an elite value. I mean, playing them together is what, 4 energy, and you can get a huge power swing just with that. You can make cards like Typhoid Mary a lot better in location RNG. Gets a bit more dependable, but because right now it's a great combo, and you don't have to do the Wombo combo of him and Wong and really get things crazy, he's dependable and a good card. I don't know if I would unlock him from the shop. If you manage to pull him, that's awesome. You got a great card to add to your collection. Maria Hill will be towards the bottom of the bunch, going in the F tier. Sadly, the cost just doesn't make a ton of sense. You can make her work in a Cerebro 3 deck, and you do get access to a couple newfound cards like Ghost that just seems extremely viable and borderline insane once this card comes out. But the randomness of a 1-cost card oftentimes is not going to make a huge impact. And again, you can make her work in like a Devil Dinosaur deck to not lose your hand size, but F tier is where she belongs. And Baku is sadly banished. He'll be going to the Thor the Dark World tier as well. Yes, you get a nice free play, and you can boost him with someone like Okoye, but there's so much that has to go right, and there's so many other options in the game. I see him in the last card we just talked about being in the pool 3 in the future, and definitely just a card you don't want to unlock. If you did, great. You could maybe plug him in, but he's in the F tier for now.
One more word, and I will feed you to my children.
Next up, we have Orka. Now, Orka is actually not in the game right now. Apparently, there was some bugs, so we actually have not been able to see Orka in action. Looking at his stats and his overall ability, I'm going to be placing him in the C tier. Have him at average for now. He could be a great play in something like a ramp deck or sometimes a control deck. Destroyer and the way that you set up that deck is going to be a bit more dependable. Now we've got She-Hulk, which is going to be in the S tier, no question. For the most part, again, any card that can get its cost reduced in some form or fashion, like death as well, is going to be a great card. Now, she also gets the benefit of being my favorite card if you just got into Pool 3. She really synergizes well with a lot of the cards and strategies that you guys are used to. She can fit into virtually any deck, and you get great value. If you don't get a good play on a certain turn, you can play She-Hulk the next turn most of the time and get a huge value from the cost card that she has. Simply across the board, I love She-Hulk. Now, if you should unlock her or not, that'll be up to you and where you are in Pool 3, but I love the card. We've got back-to-back S tiers. Shuri is a damn good card. I would argue her value is way more impactful the deeper you get into Pool 3 by unlocking other cards, but she's easily one of the best choices out there. Now, I have not unlocked her. I might not. I might wait to pull her as the token cost is a little bit expensive, but she instantly boosts, obviously, on reveal and a ton of other cards. She doesn't work quite the same as Shuri's Lab, so she wasn't as busted as we thought, but I can definitely see her being adjusted down the line as for now, her cost ratio is just so small. I mean, 4 cost is not that much for what she provides. Massive turn swings, overall, solid card. Now we've got Super Skrull, and he's going to be going at the top of the A tier. Now, currently, decks are all over the place. There's so many new cards. People aren't exactly playing staple, consistent decks, and that's kind of messing with how Super Skrull works. But he's a plug-and-play card. You can make him work into so many decks, and he can flat out win a game for you if the opponent played something like Iron Man. I can definitely see this card shifting throughout the meta. He can be random at some times with some ongoing effects, and some are just useless, right? Like Patriot, if you're not running that deck, won't do you any favors. But at only 4 cost, I love him as a tech card. Now we've got Titania, and I don't know. A tier, B tier. This one was tough. I'm going to be honest. I think Titania's got a lot to offer, especially in control decks. Love to play her on turn 5 if the opponent only has 3 cards. You fill up that lane, and then you play another card to call her back. Or you can play her in a zoo deck as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we move to Papa Thanos. Now, Thanos is easily the most difficult one to rate. And I, by far, have the most playtime on Thanos. I've got him on my main account, and that is all I've been playing with. And I truly plan on just climbing to Infinite next season. I've been playing nothing but him this season as well, as long as I've had him. Thanos is an extremely fun card. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to place him in the S tier. Let me explain why. It's simply going to be mainly for his stones. Again, Thanos is going to be more of a B tier card in itself, but the stones provide so much value across the board. And essentially, Thanos by himself is a win condition, right? So if you happen to get all the stones throughout your play, awesome. You've got yourself a big win condition in Thanos, but you don't want to just build a deck trying to make him work alone. That's kind of what I've figured out in all of my games across playing Thanos. He's a great addition to mostly any deck. Card draw is not a problem, guys. It's not a problem. You get so much card draw with all the different stones and what they provide. Now, Jubilee, America Chavez, they're pretty much worthless with Thanos in the deck. And there's a lot of things that can mess it up, right? Like a Cable, a discard, Moon Knight, getting rid of a stone. So again, don't focus on just making him great. But the stones and the value they provide, they're so good that I actually want to quickly break them down and give some separate individual tier list rankings to the stones of Thanos. Now, looking at the stones within themselves, let's quickly talk about all of them, and you can see all the letter grades that I've given them. Now, the Soul Stone is a great stone. I'm going to give it an A tier because, again, getting that huge ongoing effect of -1 power has helped me win a ton of different games. Reality Stone is a cheaper version of Scarlet Witch, massively boosting Cerebro decks and just adding a ton of different viability options for teching against the opponents or to help yourself. The Space Stone might be my favorite of the bunch, guys. It is incredible to be able to move cards out of the location that you've currently played into something like Sanctum or Death Domain. The harder to reach locations, and only using a 1-cost card completely gets rid of someone like Nightcrawler. You've got the Power Stone. A 1/3 value is bonkers within itself, but at the same time, this is going to be Thanos' ticket to big power. You don't want to be playing this card early. You want to hang on to it. It doesn't give you card draw, but it's pretty solid. Next, we have the Time Stone, which is an S tier card early on as well. You can play 3-cost cards on turn 2. You can set up She-Hulk. You can set up a bunch of different plays that you don't even have to run a ramp deck to get the value out of some of these 5 and 6-cost options. And then the Mind Stone, which the Mind Stone, if you pull in the first couple of turns, you're pretty much guaranteed to just wreak havoc on the game. Because again, you're just getting a utility and you're getting so much card draw. And that's why Thanos is great. And finally, after my TED Talk and monologue, we've got Valkyrie, who I'm also going to be placing towards the top end of this list. Valkyrie, who I've been saying Valkyrie, it's the southern accent. Trust me, I got it from the comment section. I think it's one of the better cards from this patch. Truly something that fits into almost any deck. And the fact that you can just even the odds out completely with her makes her a powerful card. Now, I think after playing just several games, I've played loads, almost probably 100 plus, you're going to want to have magic to make her work the best. Now, the best place that I've found to fit her in deck-wise for a top meta option is a Cerebro 3 deck. That way, you turn everyone to 3, but your 3 costs are worth a lot more. The only con is if they're an ongoing card like Devil Dinosaur, Ant-Man, it's not quite 3 power because they still get their effects. So do keep that in mind when playing her, but she's definitely a gold standard of an unlock to me. Now, to end this list, I want to show this graphic quickly for all of you guys in Pool 3. Which one of these cards are worth grabbing from the token shop if you do find it in your journey of Pool 3? Now, I'm going to advise, you most likely want to unlock Pool 3 cards. You're going to get way more value, but if you have to get your hands on a new shiny toy, these 3 would be the ones you want to go for, in my opinion. And that is going to wrap up our tier list, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know if you guys want me to make a best deck list for all of these cards. I've got them ready to go, and you can let me know by liking today's video. Guys, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, happy snapping.